everyone, and welcome to the New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital's virtual Teaching Kitchen program. I'm so excited to have you joining me here today to be making a healthy black bean burger. This is an entirely plant-based burger, high in fiber, low carb, very low sodium as well, and extremely flavorful using lots of different herbs and spices. So it makes it ideal for heart health, and it freezes well, and it's a great alternative for your meat-based burgers. So if you're trying to eat a little bit more healthfully, incorporate more plants into your diet, this is a great recipe for you. And it can be made with some things right in your pantry. So I'm really excited to share this recipe, and we're gonna get started. So anytime I enter the kitchen, first and foremost, I always wash my hands for the full 20 seconds. It's very important for hand hygiene. So I've gone ahead and I've done that, and now I'm ready to cook. So once your hands are clean and ready to go, these are all the ingredients that we're going to be working with here today. So as I mentioned to you, we've got some healthy black beans, very high in fiber, also high in protein. We have just gone ahead and rinsed these off. So these are straight from the can, but if you wanted to use dried black beans, you could certainly cook them ahead of time and do it that way as well. Canned black beans are just so convenient. You can keep them in your pantry. And so these ones just have been rinsed. So anytime you are using canned beans of any kind, just make sure that you rinse them to rinse off any extra sodium that might be hanging out in that can. So we've got these ready, nice and clean. Other things we're going to be using today, some red onion, right? So I'm going to show you how to work with that. A yellow bell pepper. You could use a different color for this as well. You could use orange, red. I wouldn't use green only because green has a slightly different taste. It's a little more bitter. So we're going to be using yellow. And some cilantro. So I adore cilantro. It's a wonderful anti-inflammatory herb. It's really, really great. Some people do not like the taste or have sort of what I call the soap gene, where cilantro tastes like soap to them. So if that's the case for you, feel free to substitute with parsley or basil or something that you enjoy. Okay? So this is our beautiful cilantro, also washed, ready to go. And whenever you're washing your herbs, I like to put them in a nice bath of cold water. So these ones were soaked, and then I sort of agitate them in the water, lift them up, and put them in a separate empty bowl. That's the best way to ensure that all the dirt floats to the bottom, and you are, you've got your nice clean herbs ready to go. All right, so other ingredients for this recipe we're going to be using today is some fresh garlic. So here it is, right, straight from our papery garlic, head of garlic. You could certainly use peeled and chopped garlic if that's what you have in your refrigerator. That's what's available to you. This recipe calls for about 4 to 5 garlic cloves. So if you're making that substitution, it would be about 4 to 5 teaspoons of chopped garlic. Of course, nothing can substitute the flavor of fresh garlic and all the health properties that come along with that. But if that's what you got, make use of it. We're going to be using some dried toasted almonds. So these have been already roasted. They're unsalted, very, very important. Whenever you buy nuts generally, try not to buy them salted because they just contain so much sodium otherwise, and you can salt them yourself depending on what you like. So these ones have been roasted, unsalted, ready to go. Same thing for our sunflower seeds here. So roasted and not salted, and these of course they're peeled, right? They don't have that black husk around them, so these are also what you want to look for in the store. And if you are allergic to nuts and you prefer to leave the almonds out, just double the amount of sunflower seeds instead. Okay? So a couple other things. The magic of these burgers really lies in the spices. So the spices we're using are cumin, which is this one right here, right? And you can see here it's a whole spice, and I ground it myself in a spice grinder. You could also use a mortar and pestle and grind it that way. So we're using some cumin, some chipotle chili pepper, which is also, this one's already ground. This adds a little bit of a kick and some heat to your patties, your burgers today. And smoked paprika, which is one of my favorite spices. I love it so much. I think it tastes like powdered bacon without any of the saturated fat and all of the flavor. So I like to use this a lot in dressings, even in hummus, anything where you might want a little bit of a smoky flavor on top of eggs. It's really delicious. So there are our 3 main spices for today. There's a little pinch of salt in here as well. So this is the 3 spices plus a little pinch of sea salt. All right. So that's the basic introduction to our ingredients that we're going to be using. Oh, and I almost forgot, we're going to be using some rolled oats. So these are your traditional run-of-the-mill rolled oats. We're going to be pulsing them in a food processor to kind of make oat flour, or like make them a little bit finer and more powdery. This is going to help to bind the burgers together. So this, in combination with the black beans, which get really sticky, are going to bind the burgers together. All right, so that's going to be our plan for today. So I'd like to go ahead and get started. Let's start by pulsing these rolled oats right in here, and there is going to be a little bit of noise for this. So you may notice in my food processor here, I have the S-blade hooked up. And this is the best thing if you ever want to chop or mince. This is the blade of choice. Just be careful because it is a blade, so you want to treat it respectfully as you would any other blade. All right, so this is going right in, and get this started. So I'm going to pulse it a few times just to get it the right texture. Beautiful. This is sort of looking like a breadcrumb texture. Let's get a little finer. Okay. All right, so this is great. This is just what I was looking for, this kind of fine, shaggy flour. Put it right back into the bowl that I got it from. And if you didn't have rolled oats and you wanted to use something else to bind these together, so you can see here what we're looking at, you could certainly use like a wheat germ or any kind of like quinoa flakes or something that's going to kind of help to bind this together. That would work too. All right, let's keep this off actually because we're going to use this again. So this entire recipe can be made in the food processor, or you can chop everything by hand and mash the beans by hand as well. Food processor is a lot easier because everything just gets dumped in, but I'll show you either way. So we're going to start with our pepper. This is the top and this is the bottom, and whenever you're working with peppers, the hardest thing is to take out the seeds. So I'm just going to start by taking off a nice chunk from the top, and don't worry, none of this is going to get wasted. We're going to use all of that as well. I'm just going to pop out the green stem, right? So you still have all of this to use, and the green stem goes in the trash. All right, so a couple of ABCs of knife skills here as I demo this pepper. You want to make sure of 3 things, A, B, and C. A is that your arm is in line with your knife, so whenever you're chopping, you want to have a good stance right in front of the cutting board, even on both feet, right? Because over time, if we chop like this or like this, you may find that your body gets some wear and tear. So keep your positioning parallel to the board and your knife perpendicular, and this is the chopping motion. So that's the A, everything's in line. It's not coming from the hand, it's coming from the arm, the whole arm. The B is the bolster. So this part right here is called the bolster of the knife. So I pinch and wrap the other 3 fingers around so I have a nice, good, controlled grip. So that's going to be really important as well. This gives you precision and good control. All right, so that's the B. Hold it by the bolster, wrap your fingers around. This grip takes a little bit of time to get used to if you've never held a knife this way. So take your time with it, do it at your own pace, and just try to get comfortable with it because ultimately you will have more control and precision. The C, of course, is the claw. So with your other hand, you want to have a flexible, gentle kind of claw to hold whatever it is you're cutting. So I'll just demonstrate what that looks like, right? Curling your fingers, especially the thumb, which likes to hang out. So just curl that up, right? Okay, and that's basically how you would chop some of this. So if you were doing this all by hand and chopping everything, you would want things to be chopped a little bit finer. You could put your hand on top and do what's called a mince. So that's working with the tip to the heel of the knife straight across. So you can already hear the difference, right, in cutting this. It's more of a mince. So even smaller and smaller pieces can come about this way. All right, so that's some basic knife skills. Just remember the ABCs. And then the hardest part about working with peppers is getting the seeds out. So you may see here where the seeds are connected to the outside. That's what we want to disconnect. If you can disconnect those spots, you can pop the whole seeds out, no problem. So I'm going to lay this, I'm going to kind of turn my body so you can see what I'm doing here, but ordinarily I would be standing like this. So I'm going to lay this on its side and just kind of disconnect where the knife meets the flesh of the pepper, turning the pepper, keeping the knife along the board, right? So now I've disconnected those 4 spots. I'm going to put my hand in, twist, and pull, and all those seeds come right out. All right, so now we have a nice clean pepper. I'm just going to dig out those extra white pieces in there that kind of where they were connected, right? Beautiful. All right, so this is great, nice and clean, ready for stuffing, whatever you want to do with it. Today, it's all going to go right into the food processor, so nice and easy. All right, so I'm just going to chop this in half and in half again, just to get it a little bit into smaller pieces, makes it easier for the food processor to work down. All right, so that's going to be our pepper. We're also going to process the red onions. So red onions are really wonderful. They have some great health properties. Specifically, while they may have a bad reputation for being a little smelly and making you cry, those are powerful antioxidants at work. So they're low in calories, they're good sources of vitamin B and C, which we don't really think of with onions, and they're also high in minerals like potassium. So, so they're great food to use. They also layer flavor in beautifully. So this is the top and this is the bottom. I'm just going to start by cutting off a little bit of the top. This is when I start to cry in front of everybody. A little bit of the bottom, and we're going to discard that peel. So you can see now I've taken off the hair of the top, hair of the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. For this recipe, you only need half of a red onion. So the other half, you can pickle it, you can eat it raw in a salad, whatever you prefer. So now that I've cut it in half, it's really nice, easy to peel. Take all that out. All right, let's get rid of this. Okay, so you always want to try to have a nice clean cutting space. It just helps to keep your minds aligned with everything that you're doing, keeps things organized. So we're going to put this to the side because we do not need it for the rest of our recipe. And for this, I'm just going to show you quickly. This is the top and this is the bottom. So the top, I'm right-handed, so the top is towards my right, the cutting side. And if you wanted to chop this into cubes, onions are really great because they tell you right where to cut. So you follow along the lines. You may notice there's sort of ridges. You follow the lines. So you use the top sort of quarter of your blade and cut right through. I'm not cutting through to the bottom. I'm keeping about 2 inches from the bottom intact. That's what's going to hold our onion together, right? So now I've created like this little book, onion book, and I can now cut from the top to the bottom, moving right to left. This is just making a nice chunky dice. Once you get to the bottom, it might get a little narrow and wiggly, right? You don't have as much surface area, so it feels a little unstable. Flip it over. Turn it over, you got more surface area. It's nice and easy to chop around. I'm gonna get rid of this. All right, so our next step is to put all of this in the food processor, the onion and the pepper, and we're gonna kind of make this into a rough paste. And this is, again, going to form some of the flavors of our burger. So let's close that up and get that going. All right, and let's just put this in the refrigerator here. Okay, great. So now everything is kind of minced up. I'm gonna scrape this into a bowl and set it aside. You can feel the tears start to flow, but it's good. This must be detoxing in some way, right? All right, so we're gonna take this out, pop it right into this bowl. And you may notice I have a spatula here. This is a great tool if you are using a food processor. It just really helps to scrape every last bit out. All right, put that on. Put this over here, far away from me where the onions can't get my eyes. All right, and our next step here is to combine the garlic, spices, salt, almonds, sunflower seeds, and process those together until they're nice and smooth. So step 2, let's pop off some of these garlic jackets here. Okay, so I like to use the side of my knife and just tap a couple times, takes the skins right off. Remember, this is going into the food processor as well, so you do not need to mince these. But if you're making these by hand, which I certainly have myself, you can just chop everything up really small, and that will provide the base for your burger. So, and if you're using minced garlic, you don't have to do this at all. So, nice and easy. If you're not comfortable also using the side of your knife to tap these, because let's face it, sometimes a 9-inch chef knife might feel a little intimidating. Use something that just has a flat bottom. This is our spice here. You just smash that a couple times, and that'll help to take the skins off too. So whatever you have lying around, a can, a spice, a knife, whatever you're comfortable with, that will work beautifully. So again, I'm just peeling off these papery layers. All right, there we go. Let's get rid of this. Okay. So garlic is another food that has a reputation for being a little bit smelly like onions, but again, those are antioxidants that work. Garlic in particular is really powerful. Most of the health benefits are caused by the sulfur compounds, which are formed when garlic is crushed. So it really helps for a lot of different health ailments. Specifically, it's great for lowering blood pressure, also helping to support the immune system, which is really important right now. And it might even help to improve cholesterol levels. So all in all, it's a really great food to try to use if you're not afraid of the smell. It's got some great health properties. So I'm just cutting off the bottom here, that little woody piece, right? Because we don't want that in there. And we're gonna pop this into the food processor along with our spices. Let's get those here. All right, spices are going in. And our sunflower seeds, our almonds, right? And this is gonna be sort of like our breadcrumb mixture going in. Okay. All right, and I just wanted to show you, see, these are dry roasted, unsalted. So you can find them in the store just like this. All right, so you just want this to kind of resemble breadcrumbs. Now we're gonna throw in some cilantro. So it's about half a cup of chopped cilantro. I think that's like a nice big handful. I'm not even gonna bother picking the leaves off the stems because it's perfect just the way it is. Toss it in. So we're ready to add everything together. Let's not forget the final ingredient, our black beans. Okay, so we've got this mixture, right? Oh, this smells so good. It's smoky, it's spicy, it's nutty. All of the aromas are just Wonderful. All right, let's toss these in with a little bit of water, just a pinch, about 2 tablespoons or so. We're gonna make a smooth paste out of this. It's gonna go in with everything else. This is our oat flour or our shaggy oat. There we go. All right, beautiful. So we're done with this mixture. Let's just make sure we get our blade in a safe spot. All right, and everything is going together here. So you could use your hands to mix this together. You could use a spoon, whatever you're comfortable with. Let's set this aside. Okay, so here's our mixture. You can see we got the black beans, the oat flour, the peppers, the onions, right? It's kind of unusual, right? You wouldn't really think of a burger as having so many vegetables in it, but with all these herbs and spices and veggies, this really makes for a super healthy meal. All right, so you just want to make sure it's really well incorporated. So you can see I'm kind of scraping around the bowl and smoothing it out, kind of mushing it all together. And it takes a minute or two for the oats to kind of set up. They absorb moisture, and so we're just gonna let that sit for a moment. It's better if you can to pop this in the refrigerator for 10 minutes or so and just really get it nice and set, because you can see the texture here is a little bit loose, but with the refrigerator and the oat flour kind of starting to activate and absorb some of that liquid, it'll get a little bit firmer. So this is our mixture. It's ready to go. I'm heating up our cast iron here. So a couple of things I wanted to note about cast iron. Now that everything is integrated, I'm gonna shape them into the patties, making sure they're not too thin so they don't fall apart. And it's really important, if you are making these indoors, cast iron is your best option because it gets really hot, as opposed to some other pans don't get quite as hot. So this is gonna be the closest thing that you have indoors to a grill. If you've got a grill, you can do it that way too. We're just gonna cook them for 8 sides, 8 minutes on either side. And the other thing I wanted to note about cast iron is often people will say that it sticks, and that's why they don't use it. So there's 3 things that may be happening here. 1, your pan might not be hot enough, so that's why we got it getting it nice and hot first. 2, maybe you don't have enough fat or oil or something to coat the pan. And 3, maybe you're not patient enough. So this has always been my struggle. If you are waiting for something to cook and it smells so good, all you want to do is flip it and get it onto your plate. But you have to be patient. You really have to make sure that it sears and forms a crust on either side. If it doesn't, then it's going to stick, then it's going to get messy, then you're going to get mad. So be patient. Let it sear on either side, let it take its time, and then you'll find a really nice result. So how do you know that this is hot enough? First of all, you can take a couple droplets of water and just kind of sprinkle it on the pan and see if there's a sizzle. There's a nice sizzle going here. Second, if you've got a nice sizzle, you can also do like a little test and send a spy, so you can take a little bit and see how it reacts on the pan, and you can hear it sizzling right away. That's a really good sign, right? And now I think we're ready for our oils. So when you're cooking on high heat temperatures, you want to use high heat oils. Today we're going to be using a grapeseed oil, which is very neutral in flavor. You can see it's very light in color too. It's also good oil for heart health. So this is what we're going to be using. So I have my flipper ready, my spatula, all the tools that I needed were set up ahead of time, right? So you want to do that whenever you're cooking anything. It's called mise en place. So you've got all your ingredients, you've got all your tools, and you're ready to run. All right, so we're ready to go here. I just want to make sure this is set up enough. You could honestly wait a little bit longer, but let's give it a try. It smells so good. It's really just a lovely aroma coming from in here. All right, so we're going to start here. I'm going to make sure my heat is where I want it to be. And I'm just going to make 1 or 2 of these for you guys to demo what it's going to look like. So just a little bit of oil. You can use your hands, form these right into a patty. Yeah, these feel a little loose to me, but let's give it a try. All right, set it down. And So with these, I'm kind of making them, you know, palm sized, right? Like a traditional quarter pounder, palm sized. And flatten these out. All right, let's rinse our hands here. Keep them nice and clean. All right, and we're just gonna let that kind of sear for a couple minutes on either side. Okay. So, the flavor in these burgers, it's very layered. You've got your foundation, which is the predominant texture, the flavor, the sensation. That's really coming from our black beans, right? So that's what I call the foundation. Then you've got your counterpoints, right? What makes that foundation interesting? What kind of provides a little pizzazz, right? So for this one, we're contrasting the foundation with things like paprika and cumin and that bright and roasted, that bright pepper, that yellow pepper, the roasted almonds, which are providing some nuttiness, the seeds for some textural fun as well, right? So we've got a lot of kind of layers going on in here. And then finally, there are what I call the embellishments. So that's typically your garnish. So things like cilantro in this case, the fun stuff. That's gonna provide a nice bright flavor in these burgers as well. All right, so as that's cooking, I'm gonna get our plate ready here. Just clean off here, here we go. All right, so we're gonna get our plate ready. I've got some nice arugula here and a pita pocket. Of course, you could serve these on a bun. If you wanted sort of a more low carb option, you could serve them in a lettuce wrap. They're really good just on top of a nice big salad. And that is sort of the three ways I like to serve this. So pita pocket is really convenient if you're bringing it to work or, you know, packing it for a lunch or something like that, because it really keeps all the flavors contained and you can just wrap it up. All right, so you can also include a couple sauces in this if you wanted to. I like to make like an avocado crema with this, and it's really plays off nicely with the black beans and the red onion and all those flavors. So that's a good option if you want a little more moisture in here. You could throw in some extra veggies. So of course we've got lots of vegetables in here already, but if you wanted even more, you could definitely add, you know, I'm gonna add some arugula right in here with this. It's gonna be really lovely. All right, let's see how we're doing here. So if you notice, I'm kind of approaching this right carefully. It seems to be lifting, which is a great start. Yeah, it's lifting beautifully. Oh, love that. All right, so if it's sticking, when I kind of probe it, right? If it's sticking, when you kind of push it a little bit, it's not ready. Let it sit a little bit longer. So the most important thing is you want to form that sear. The sear is going to provide flavor. It's also going to prevent it from sticking. So let's see how we do with this guy here. Oh, it's sliding. So put that right over. Oh my gosh, so nice. The other great thing about these black bean burgers is you can also bake them. So if you wanted to sort of shape them into patties, if you had a bunch of people that you were feeding or distributing food to, or if it's family or friends or neighbors, you could definitely make these, pop them in the oven, flip them after about 10 minutes so they kind of bake on either side. You won't get as much of this nice browning, but they will bake and they will taste delicious. So you definitely bake them as well. So to do that, you want to preheat your oven to about 375 and go for 10 minutes on either side. Definitely use some kind of parchment paper or something on the baking sheet. You could drizzle them with a little bit of oil to get a little bit more texture and shine on them. And there you go. So you could do them, if you're doing a big batch, you could do it that way as well. So a lot of options with these burgers too. If you didn't have black beans, you could certainly use another bean too. I've also made these with cannellini beans. They are a different taste and they were a lot creamier. So that worked out pretty well. I think the best alternatives would be either kidney beans or pinto beans. Those work really well for this one as well. All right, so we've got, these are almost done here. Again, we have to be patient. And I think I covered almost everything I wanted to about all of our beautiful ingredients today. We didn't talk much about cilantro. I'm not sure if I mentioned, it's a great anti-inflammatory spice or herb, so that is another quality that I love about it. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention about spices is generally whole spices you can keep for about a year. If your spices are ground, you can keep them for about 6 months before they all start to deplete their nutrition and flavor. So if you want the best flavor in your food, start with whole spices and grind them yourself using a spice grinder. I use a little coffee grinder at home, which I don't use for coffee, and that works really well to grind all of your spices fresh. It is an extra step, but one that greatly enhances the flavor of your food. So worth trying. All right, let's see, I think we're done here. Yep, these are coming right off. So I'll just show you what this looks like. It even looks like a meat burger, right? It's kind of sneaky that way. All right, and we'll just pop this right on our cutting board. Okay. Cut this in half, right? Because I'm gonna put it right into our pita pocket. Oh my gosh, the smells, the aromas. Okay, and then you can just stuff with a little bit of arugula or some lettuce, whatever you got, some sprouts, you know, just to add some nice green in there. We'll take our patty and pop that right in, right? Oh my gosh, oh, it smells so good. All right, so there you have it, your black bean patty pita pocket burger. Wonderful again for high in fiber, high in protein, completely plant-based, really gonna help to support your heart health and your well-being overall. So give it a try and let me know what you think. So thank you so much for tuning in to our first virtual class. It's really been a pleasure doing this and sharing all of this information with you, and I hope it's useful to you. I hope you can bring it into your families and your neighborhoods and you know, continue to support your health and well-being. So from all of us here at New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital, thank you so much, and we hope to see you again soon.